The question was, could I speak about the relationship of artists to shamanism in some of the more, the pre-literate Amazon societies that I've been in? Well, I think, you know, people have the notion about tribal people, that their life is very hard. In some environments and some situations it is, but people try everywhere to create leisure for themselves and to have an opportunity for aesthetic expression. In psychedelic societies, everything is art. I'm thinking particularly of, for instance, the Shipibo in their classic expression. The Shipibo are an Amazonian tribe. They cover every utilitarian object with design. Everything is an expression of the images of the internal world, and language and puns and this sort of thing become very important. Life, when you have nothing, life is easily transformed into art, because there's a how-ness about everything. How you make a fire, how you cast a pot, how you cook a monkey. Everything is a paradigmatic activity, meaning everything is traditional, everything has been done millions of times before in the way that your people do it. And so the individual is seen almost like just the cutting edge of the ancestral energy. And they even have the concept of what they call the way of the ancestors. And so you'll be doing something like sharpening a stick, and someone will come up to you and say, don't do it that way. We do it this way. This is the way of the ancestors. Then they show you how to do it, and sure enough, it is easier to do it that way. Probably because this is the morphogenetic field of the how-ness. And I think Ralph mentioned this morning the confluence of yoga, alchemy, and shamanism in the Taoist tradition. And I think it's worth stressing that, because to my mind, Taoism is the most refined ideal of human existence. It is open-ended. It always yields to a good laugh. It's not dogmatic. It's rooted in nature. It sees the world as shells of energy that can be manipulated and cultivated. And I really see Taoism as something broader than the nature religion that arose in southern China pre-Confucius and so forth. I see it as the kind of natural way of being in the world that tribally alive societies settle into. And it's what we're trying to recreate. Appropriate activity. That alone would create a world-informing revolution. When I say that we must change our minds, the physical accompaniment to changing our minds is that we will begin to behave appropriately, bury our shit, manage our resources, lower our voices. It's simply awareness, and awareness of awareness. And this is what these societies have that we have lost. And I think it's because the male ego is a wart on human perfection. And everybody has one. It's not a put down of men. The male ego is a part of the repertoire of every human personality in the modern world. But it is unnecessary, divisive, and out of Tao. And this reconnection with the Tao, with the flow, with the invisible, the spirits, the energies of sky and water and earth, the psychedelics impel us into recognizing these things But it's our own intent that can allow us to bring these things back into the world and apply them. So for me, that was the lesson of so-called primitive people. You want to talk about that?
Well, the only thing I would add to it would be that the male ego has come out of touch, but it can be reconnected. There's nothing inherent in that structure, that psychic structure or function in itself. The ego is simply that function that through which means with which we function in the world. What gets it into trouble is this thing of assuming that it knows the only reality, and it has claim to value over other. It's not a relatedness, it's a superior, separative, superior, dominating, controlling trip that it tries to run. But at the same time, the Taoists show to a way of functioning with decisiveness. Taoism is not a passive or inert or quietistic religion or practice at all. It's being able to act and to function with the flow, with the grain of nature, so that your actions are in harmony with nature and therefore by themselves successful. And Taoism has proven itself to be remarkably resilient. It's not by any means a religion of ancient China. It's a 5,000-year or longer tradition and teaching that is alive and well to this day in communist China and other parts of the world. And we also have to recognize that we're not going to be able to go back to a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. We're never going to recreate great areas of wilderness we've lost. We're never going to be able to get away from city living. There is such a thing as urban shamanism, and it's one of our tasks to really invent that. That's something brand new. Aboriginal cultures do not have it. How do you live in a city environment in the late 20th century while recognizing that in this city environment too, the other worlds, the worlds of spirits, of animals and plants, is right there in the streets of New York and under the concrete, in the sewers? Some of you may have seen this film, The Last Wave, which is about the Australian Aboriginal, the survival of an Australian Aboriginal culture under the streets of Sydney. A very interesting story. So this is where, this is going to require all the resourcefulness that we can come up with. We have to study the past, take, the valuable lessons that we've forgotten, bring them back into, put them together with the new information that we're getting, that science has presented us with, plus our knowledge of the limitations of the existing political structures, and go to work and use whatever you can.